The impacts are going to be very significant. I wouldn't focus on it's a Category 1 hurricane. I'd focus on what the impacts are being forecast for your area and heat evacuation orders, as those are going to be issued today based upon the storm surge threat and then potentially for river flooding and flash flooding in the out days.
That was FEMA Administrator Craig Fugate, of course, urging people to take this storm very seriously and to start preparing. Now, the storm is headed for the Northeast, so all conditions will be going downhill in New York City, Boston, Hartford, and Philadelphia. In fact, the NFL is keeping a close eye on Sandy as it lashes parts of the East Coast. And we want to talk now with the voice of the Atlanta Falcons, who are in town, of course, in Philadelphia for the game later this afternoon. And it is Wes Durham. Wes, can you hear me?
I can, Vivian. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you? And how are the Falcons doing? Of course, they're in Philadelphia right now getting prepared. How are they preparing for the game?
Well, a lot of people here obviously have been following the weather closely overnight since Atlanta arrived here yesterday afternoon. And I think, fortunately for game conditions, it's going to be a lot of wind. They don't expect the rain portion of Sandy to get here until earlier this evening. So hopefully the game will be played in just a lot of wind, although I know that people here at Lincoln Financial Field have been prepared for the rain and so forth. But I don't anticipate that we're going to have a lot of precipitation until after the ball game concludes. But once the game concludes, Atlanta will be in a hurry-up mode of their own, so to speak, to use the football analogy, to go ahead and get on out of town. That'll be the most important operation after the ball game, is to go ahead and get the Falcon charter loaded and try and get it back to Atlanta. Obviously, probably going west to come south, but I think that'll be the most important operation Atlanta has following the game. They hope this game, though, is going to be played in just windy conditions and not a lot of rain. If it becomes rain and wind, they'll continue to play. It won't be very pretty. The only way they would stop a ball game would be if they had lightning in the area.
Oh, yeah. Well, have you been hearing anything like from the locals about the storm? Are they concerned, do you know?
I think they are concerned. I think they, you know, and I heard the analogy that Jim used with New York a moment ago in your piece about our Hurricane Irene, and I think that has a lot of people on alert or high alert here in the Northeast. A lot of folks this morning in Philadelphia, particularly on the local side, you know, heeding caution to people. The evacuations here have not been announced as they have in New York that I heard Jim mention a moment ago. But I think people here in Philadelphia are on alert, particularly out on the Jersey coast at Cape May and Rehoboth Beach, as to how things are going to develop here in the next 6 hours for sure.
Okay, well, we'll certainly be watching the overall conditions for the game later today. Again, that's the Philadelphia Eagles and the Atlanta Falcons playing later this afternoon in Philadelphia. Of course, we're watching overall weather conditions from Sandy, Hurricane Sandy, off the coast now, moving northward into the area. So the winds will be on the increase for sure. And of course, the wet weather will be a factor as well. So we'll definitely keep you updated on that. Okay, now let's talk about the snowy side of Sandy, if you can believe that. That's going to be a huge component to this storm as well. Right, Heather?
Well, and that too is what makes this one of the things that makes this so intriguing, because we are seeing that cold air being pulled in, and so we are going to find areas in West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, some of those higher elevations, you know, we're looking at 1 to 2 feet of snow, very cold air coming in. Now, of course, we continue to watch as we monitor Sandy, and as we look through time, you can see here's just a little time clock there. Actually, I should circle it with that. But you know, we're going to continue to watch this as it moves up the coast, but it will be taking that turn inland. But on the back side of this, we're going to be pulling in this cold air. You can see here we have a lot of these 40s coming through. So because of that, yes, we are talking about areas of snow. We have now rain, but as we go through time, you'll note that we're not only looking at rain, but look at what's developing here as we look to parts of, as I mentioned, you know, coming in here across Virginia. You can see a little bit West Virginia picking up some of that. We're finding some of that too into Kentucky, even into Tennessee and North Carolina. Now these all, of course, are higher elevations, but yes, Vivian, I mean, with that snow, we're talking heavy, wet snowfall coming in, and we are talking about some of these places getting 1 to 2 feet.
Of course, just another thing we have to worry about when it comes to Hurricane Sandy. But we are here, of course, following all aspects of the storm. In fact, we have a full tropical update coming up next from our global forecast center.
This is the car that loves to have fun, mile after mile, to and from. Now there are 4 for all to use, so the neighbors, friends, everyone, the news, and let's hum, 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 let's hum. A Prius for everyone. Now there's a bigger one if you want more space, a small one if the city's your place, and even one you can plug in, so hop on in and get one to spin, and let's hum, 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 let's hum. A Prius for everyone.
Nature's true celebrities aren't always the most obvious. It's more than being glamorous or tall. It's not all about who sparkles the most or who is the best dressed. What nature really cares about is what you have to offer. Like the stevia plant, small and humble, with a surprising secret to share. Sweetness. Truvia Sweetener. 0-calorie sweetness born from the stevia leaf. From nature for sweetness.
Look to the right. If you're driving in fog or heavy rain, use the right edge of the road as a guide. Get more tips like this at